But there was a clip that I wanted to react to, as well as Gavin, that basically Krystal and Kyle kind of come after Khanna for why they don't, or why they haven't forced a vote on $15 minimum wage. So I thought it would be good.
Originally, I was skeptical that President Biden was actually in favor of a $15 minimum wage. Then he signed an executive order which raised the federal workers' minimum wage to $15 an hour, and it included federal workers, federal contractors, even tipped federal workers, which I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. And so this raised the wages for over 400,000 people. I remember covering that story at the time. I said, hey, I'm fair. Facts are facts. Credit to Joe Biden. This is phenomenal. So what that tells me is, no, he actually is in favor of $15 minimum wage. Now, the extent to which he's in favor of it is a different question. How much is he willing to go to the mat for it? But that leads me to the last fight, where we had, for the last COVID relief package, there was discussion about the $15 minimum wage being in there. Bernie effectively forced a vote on that in the Senate, and what we learned is that there's like 7 or 8 Senate Democrats who are against the $15 minimum wage. Kirsten Sinema with a little famous curtsy and thumbs down and everything. As I was watching that unfold, what occurred to me is, well, hold on, this isn't dead yet, because there's a strategy that might work here, which is you need to get a block of progressives in the House. That's more than the block of conservative Democrats in the Senate. So there's 7 or 8 of them. If we get 10 or 12 progressive House Democrats to say, no, we will tank the entire bill unless you put the $15 minimum wage in there. So, Mr. President, get to work convincing those 7 or 8 Democrats who are against the $15 minimum wage, get to work convincing them to be for the $15 minimum wage, because we're not budging, and we'll tank whatever unless it has I don't want to hear anything unless it has $15 minimum wage in there. Did anybody have conversations like that, number one? Number two, why is there not enough of an organized, strong left to do something like that? Because that had the potential to work, because the president nominally was on your side. He was for the $15 minimum wage. He just needed to be spurred to fight the conservatives who were against it.
We did have conversations, and it led to what you probably don't think was strong enough, and obviously wasn't strong enough because it didn't work. There were 23 of us. I helped lead the effort, writing a letter to the president and Vice President Harris saying overturn the parliamentary and put $15 in reconciliation. I actually honestly don't remember the parliamentary's name even on this interview. I don't think any American would have cared if they had overturned the parliamentarian. And I think if they had put the $15 as part of the president's package, those 7 senators would have voted for it, because you wouldn't have had those senators willing to tank the president's entire package over the $15 issue. We lost that debate. At the time, the president pushed back. We looked like we were obstructionists. Some people even said, why are we putting pressure on the vice president? But the vice president's in charge of the Senate. I mean, there was that the president and her decision wasn't singling out the vice president. We didn't go to, it was contemplated. Some people said, well, maybe we should have the whole thing withhold our votes. But remember, this was the president's first legislative priority. It was still in the midst of some of the peak numbers of COVID. Some of us, like me, had said on the record with Trump that we needed to get a deal to at least get money to people, and we couldn't delay it. And there was that urgency. It would have probably looked hypocritical, and we then were willing to tank any possibility of getting relief to people in that first bill. So we didn't think that was the vehicle to make that stand. Obviously, some people thought we should have, but my view is that wasn't the time. The administration then said, look, they're committed to this $15. They're going to get it at some point. We'll see. I mean, so far, we have to have it be part of some must-pass bill, or have it eliminate the filibuster to get it.
Yeah. Is there a strategy? Because, I mean, I don't have to tell you, it's the longest time that we've gone without lifting the minimum wage in that program's history.
George Bush was the last one to do it. George W. Bush.
It's insanely popular. Passed easily in the state of Florida, which sadly went relatively
voted for
easily
Trump.
for Donald J. Trump, but at the same time voted quite easily as well for $15 minimum wage. I mean, I have a really hard time understanding a single Democrat that doesn't support this, but let's put that aside for a moment. What would a strategy look like at this point to get $15 minimum wage passed when the president's been adamant about like ceding all kinds of power to this parliamentarian, unwilling to get rid of the filibuster, and so you're left in kind of the status quo situation?
It has to be part of a must-pass bill. I mean, I would say overrule the parliamentarian is the simplest way, but they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to so far do anything with the filibuster. So put it in a must-pass bill. The defense authorization would be a must-pass bill that it could be in. And look, if it doesn't get to $15, if it's at $12 or $13, we're not going to vote against that, but at least get the wage up to a significant level. And the reality is that they haven't been willing to do that. But I'm working with Adam Smith, who's the chair of the Armed Services Committee, to see if we can at least get some.
So yeah, don't worry, guys. Workon is working real hard with Adam Schiff to get us $15 an hour minimum wage. So I'm really concerned about that. He seems really urgent.
This is bullshit.
It's so bad. Like I'm trying to think where I even start with this. And like whenever I see clips like these, and people have seen how like far I should to the left over a few years, I can't possibly wrap my head around how I did not see through it. Like they sound exactly like politicians now. Like when I listen to what he's saying, oh, we had a conversation with the Biden administration. They promised me that they're going to. Are you guys really taking Joe Biden, the guy who lied about being arrested in South Africa with Nelson Mandela, the guy who lied about his advocacy for the bankruptcy bill when Bernie Sanders called him out, the administration who lied over and over and over again? You just writing them a sternly written letter. You just taking their word for it. And you see these people say this all the time. And this is what Bernie kind of alluded to when he had a conversation with Krystal. And he was like, oh, you guys don't know the conversations we had with Biden behind the scene. Oh, go ahead and explain to me. This would be a great time for you to explain to me exactly what they're saying and why you are believing them. Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer has made a fools of our elected politicians. And that does not give me any pleasure to say whatsoever. But these people pretend to be on their side and then shake them in the back, and they still haven't learned their lesson. People understand why they ask me questions why I went so hard at progressives when the internal laws, because you guys are not learning your lesson, because you guys rather be comfortable. The same reason why they didn't want to force the vote, because they thought they was going to get committee assignments. That way he's not going to tell you, but that was really what it was. And then Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party last second was like, hey, yo, we're not giving you that assignment. Gotcha. And they still falling for it. These people are morons. And I'm listening to that whole clip, and I'm like, I cannot believe I didn't see through this. They just showed to my development, because what I saw from that was just rambling nonsense. So this is what Chris Hedges said. And if you're on the wrong side of Chris Hedges, despite the fact that he called everything for the last few decades, Chris Hedges recently said, you have the boutique lefts. What they do is they like advocate this boutique activism, which is completely disconnected from the lives of the poor. Because their message, the message of Justice Democrats, is shut up and trust the plan. We should force the vote maker fraud. We should put pressure through marches. Nope. Shut up. Trust the plan. You don't know
trust the process, bro.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say, and I'll pass it back to you guys. Do not trust any politician that tells you to shut up and trust the plan. You guys realize that is what the Justice Democrats have been doing for months and months and months. Us as the activists, as the outside game, we say, yo, we got this plan. And even if you disagree with that plan, you can reach out to activists like, all right, so this is what we actually can do to actually help increase pressure or something. But they just shut us out of the conversation. They don't want to be seen with us. They don't want to be here with us because they want us to donate to them. They want us to just shut up and trust the plan. You should trust no politician that says that. So that clip is just awful. It's just like how Bernie clip with Krystal Ball is awful. I don't know how people don't see through these people now. But it's just crazy. It's so frustrating to see that.
Absolute fucking horseshit. No, nothing. Marble mouth. We're going to keep doing exactly what we're fucking doing. Nothing's going to change. We're going through the conventional channels that have denied these people minimum wage increase for, as Krystal noted and Kyle added on, the fucking longest period since the federal minimum wage increase. We last relied on George Bush to fucking do this shit. So absolutely absurd. More people support this probably than any other fucking policy. $15 minimum wage is damn near popular across the board with Republicans as it is with Democrats. So, or at least working class folks. So it's just ridiculous. And Ro Khanna continues to fucking disappoint me for sure.
Yeah, honestly, the only good thing I have to say about Ro Khanna at this point is that he actually does go on shows to take tough questions. Like, you literally can't say that about any other squad member. And actually, I think it was Brianna Joy Gray actually that made the really excellent point recently about Cori Bush, because people were saying like, oh, like, you know, they were piling on like Max Blumenthal and people for approaching her and asking her about force the vote and stuff at the eviction moratorium camp out.
Oh, we got to protect the politicians in front of reporters. This
Yeah,
is
I know,
how
right?
stupid the boutique left is right now.
No, it's
you take the
ridiculous.
politicians from the activists, from the reporters. You guys know how ridiculous you sound to me?
No,
Sorry.
it's crazy. No, it's crazy. I totally agree with you, man. I totally agree. But the point that Brianna Joy Gray was making that I think was excellent was she was like, maybe Cori Bush wouldn't have to worry about being ambushed in public about force the vote if she had just gone on one single lefty show at the time to explain her reasoning and talk about why she wasn't going to embrace it. Like, why are you so afraid of sitting down with someone like Brianna and just having a conversation about strategy? You were elected by this movement. You came on these shows to get elected. She came on our fucking show to get elected. We told people to donate to her, and now you're going to totally turn around and just blackball the entire left independent media because you're going to get one single tough question where people want to know your line of thinking. Like, just have a conversation with us, and then maybe you won't have to worry about getting ambushed in public and asked about this kind of stuff. So, I do appreciate the fact that Ro Khanna will at least sit down and explain the way he's thinking about things, even though I totally disagree with him. But again, that's about all the credit I can give to the guy. I think it's pretty obvious he doesn't have nearly as much urgency on an issue like this when, as Kyle pointed out, George Bush was the last president to raise the minimum wage. We should not be accepting this excuse of the parliamentarian. And it seems like Ro Khanna is all too easily accepting that excuse of the parliamentarian. Saying, well, that's a difference in strategy between myself and the president. So therefore, I'm going to go, work with Adam Schiff on something that's never going to happen. So, yeah, totally disappointing. I agree.
Basically, the squad has abandoned any kind of urgency. So I think that's something that we have to grapple with. And I think that, like you said, Gavin, even though they won't come on any of our shows and Ro Khanna will, he's advocating and articulating their line of reasoning as well. So that's why I think it's important to look at that. Ro Khanna is in the same exact boat as the squad, right? The squad has just gone in and become a Ro Khanna. We had Ro Khanna in Congress before the squad, and he was always like nominally kind of like good on some things and then not good on the other. Like
foreign policy in particular, he's really good on.
Yes. For sure. But now it kind of feels like that's all we have anyway with the squad. So they don't feel like that different to me from a Ro Khanna anymore, which just kind of underscores how like not that important they are to me. I don't know. I feel like it could have been a stand-in for any squad member, what Ro Khanna said, except they're all too chicken shit to actually go on and take the question. So it's right. I guess we'll give like a fucking head nod to Ro Khanna as we say, yeah, you're fucking doing a worthless job.
Yeah. And I actually had this conversation with both Max Blumenthal, and I actually talked about this with Brianna Joy Gray. And Brianna Joy Gray made such a great point. This is what I've been saying on my show as well. Like, can you imagine the squad with their popularity actually using and utilizing independent media in a positive way at left orbiters? Because they can shift the conversation in ways that we have not seen because they don't do it. And this is what my criticism, Max Blumenthal criticism of them was. And people get mad at me for being hard on them, but I literally think they are failures of leftist leaders because they should be going on the Vanguard. They should be going on Jimmy Dore. They should be going on TYT. Friend. I don't like even the show I don't like. I like go on there and then talk to these people because imagine. And I mentioned this with Brianna Joy Gray, and I want to bring this up again. This is what I mean when I say they are failures of leftist leaders. Because do you remember when the Biden administration, with coordination of the corporate media, were pulling out the lie that, the Biden administration is dropping the poverty rates because of the child tax credit. And then what I explained on my show is any socialist critique of that would be like, that's nonsense because capitalist poverty rates are a joke. Do you guys know that if you are a single mother with 2 kids, and this is on the national level, single mother with 2 kids, if you make over $23,000 a year, they consider you out of poverty. So what capitalists do, they're like, well, as long as you got a roof over your head and you're not starving to death, you're out of poverty. So what the socialist point of view should be, no, you guys are not lifting people out of poverty. These are the steps you got to take to actually lift people out of poverty. Screw your horrific standards. But what do? They're like, Biden is dropping poverty. Like Bernie Sanders is going out and saying that like an idiot. Now, imagine the national discourse, and this is what people lack their imagination. Imagine instead of backing up the Biden administration on that, they went on independent media and launched their own campaign like, the Biden administration is not reducing poverty because the Biden administration is not giving people health care in the middle of a pandemic. They're not increasing the minimum wage. You guys not even canceling student loan debt. Can you imagine the massive dialogue that will create if the squad had a coordinated push? So people don't use their imagination when I had the criticism though, because there's so much more potential that they don't even use because their job is to be the PR of the Democrat Party. They can't do anything to make the Democrat Party look really bad. So if they did that, that makes the Democratic Party look bad, and it put pressure on the Democratic Party, unlike we ever seen them do before. But they are failures. But go ahead, Gavin.
No, you're totally correct, and you're correct that people don't even think that's possible because the squad members, the progressives in Congress, they don't come on independent media, so people don't even consider that as a possibility. But it absolutely is a possibility, and there's so much untapped potential in that idea. Unfortunately, it seems like every time any of the progressives in Congress, notably Ro Khanna, goes on independent media like Krystal Kyle or Rising or whatever the fuck, it's always to defend Biden, and it's always to defend the squad's lack of action. It's never to join hands with their comrades in independent media to push the Biden administration left or to push for there to be more action in Congress. It's always to defend and to deflect. So it's crazy that when they do interact with left media, it's to defend Biden, not to push him left like they promised we would all try to do.